In this video, I'll break down everything that you need to improve your game on a controller in Rocket League, from the gear you use to the adjustments you make in-game. Whether you're just starting out or looking to refine your playstyle, this guide that I personally created has you covered. Let's get started. First things first, let's talk about peripherals. While mechanics and game sense are really critical, having the right setup can give you that extra edge. As far as my controller, as I just showed, I personally use the PS5 controller. I have a few more as well, but I personally use the PS5 controller here, and it's been a godsend for Rocket League. It's ergonomic, it's really reliable, and the build quality is the best build quality out of any controller. Otherwise, Xbox is my number 2, and then the Thrustmaster, which you can go back to my really old videos and see that's my number 3. That one's really good, but the buttons kind of hurt my hands a bit, and it's not that comfortable. But PS5 is my controller. I'd really recommend you guys use this controller if you have larger hands like me. But PS4, I tried that as well. I don't know why I forgot that. If you have smaller hands, the PS4 is going to be really solid, and most pros either use the PS4 or the PS5. You'll see very, very little pros on any other controller besides the PS4 and PS5. You'll see a few Xbox, but that's about it. As far as my monitor goes, I play on a BenQ 360Hz monitor, and it's an incredibly smooth experience, but Rocket League doesn't really require it as much as other games. But in Rocket League, you probably only need like 144Hz or 240. I'd say that's worth it. It reduces any sort of input lag, and it keeps your visuals really sharp with fast moving plays. And as far as my headset goes, I personally use the DT 990 Pros here. It's a limited edition. I don't know if they still sell it, but if they do, I'll have it in the description as long as other videos. But I've also tried lots of different headphones. These are the Arctic 7s. If you go back to my older videos, you'll hear a pretty bad mic. That comes from this headset right here.
Hello guys, my name is Dice. Welcome back to another YouTube video.
These are the Arctic 7s. Really solid sound quality, but the mic's not great. But I'll have the description for this if you guys are interested. Your headset's not as important. It's kind of just something for comfort, but the Arctics were 150, and these ones I just showed you before that were like 150 as well. But you could get cheaper ones. I connect my headsets to a Go XLR, which I can't really show you on the camera because it's plugged in, but you could just pick whatever headphones you want. That doesn't really matter. For your mic, you don't really need a mic, but if you want to go to the next level in Rocket League, and you're going to need to do that with 6-mans, you'll have to communicate, and you don't really want to be giving comms on a pretty shitty mic. So I use the Shure MV7. I'll have that in the description as well. I have this connected to my Go XLR as well. And so you guys could just pick up this mic if you want. It's kind of on the expensive side, but it's a really high quality mic. If you're on your computer a lot, or even a PlayStation or whatever, you could still use this mic and it will have a really good quality. So in terms of all of your peripherals, what should you upgrade first? If you're tight in your budget and you're really trying to think where should you invest first, your controller should be number 1 because that's what you actually use to play the game. It needs to feel as good as possible. You don't want to have a $10 Nintendo controller and a 360Hz monitor. That's stupid. But aside from your controller, your monitor should be number 2 because, once again, that's what you play on, and having a low input lag will do wonders for your reaction time and overall gameplay. I've seen people go from like Diamond 1 on like a 60Hz monitor to immediately like Champ 3 within like a week just by changing their monitor and controller. And then number 3 would be your headphones and mic. These are more so for enhancing your experience and comfort and for communication, but it can all wait if your current setup's decent. You don't need any of that stuff. Now that we have the actual gear out of the way, let's get into optimizing your controller settings. And I don't overclock any of them. I think that's kind of risky. I just do the default. But if your settings aren't customized to you and your playstyle, you're literally fighting against your own inputs instead of focusing on improving, which is our goal in Rocket League. And fine-tuning your controls can make a massive difference in how you play and feel in the game. Let's start with your sensitivity, and this is basically how sensitive your car is going to be with your joystick inputs. For steering sensitivity, most pros suggest starting with the steering sensitivity between 1.3 and 1.8. For the most part, this will give you plenty of precision without making your car way too twitchy or like moving too much. If it feels like your turns are too slow, just bump it up slightly. It is personal preference. You'll see completely different ranges. I have a complete camera settings sensitivity guide if you guys are interested in that, where I go really in depth. I'll have that linked in the description as well with all the links for my gear. But yeah. As far as your controller dead zone, this controls how much you need to move your joystick before it actually registers an input. A good starting point is 0.05 to 0.07. If you feel like your car isn't responding as quickly as you'd like, you should lower it. Just be careful not to go too low, as stick drift can become an issue. And the reason I buy all these controllers is because they do all get stick drift eventually, and I got a new one coming up. And finally, dodge dead zone. This setting affects how far you need to push your joystick to perform a dodge. So how far you pull this up to perform a dodge is what the dodge dead zone is. I don't even know if you guys can hear me all the way, but just like if I pull it all the way up here, it would be a dodge. But if you have a really low dodge dead zone, if I barely pulled up, it would still dodge. So that will cause like backflipping when you're trying to do a fast aerial. 0.8 is standard for that, but I use 0.6 personally. Now onto your bindings. This is pretty important, but it's also pretty subjective on what's comfortable with you. But a lot of players, actually most players, rebind their boost to a bumper. That's what I have boost on. I use R1 on my boost and then X as my jump. A lot of people do this because when you change your boost to R1 or something that has an easier time touching, it makes it easier to do different mechanics such as aerials and wave dashes and fast aerials, and it's just easier to boost while you're jumping with this, but it is possible with either. As far as air roll, you should consider binding air roll to a bumper as well, like L1 or R1, and for way more advanced control, most players use directional air roll binds, air roll left or air roll right, on buttons like square or RB or R1. It's personal preference. I use square for my air roll right, and I use L3 for my air roll left, and I use L1 for my air roll normal, and R1 for my boost. So that's pretty much my settings. If you guys want to copy them, you can. It's the same as apparently Jack's. I pretty much just copied his. As far as power slide, you should have this on L1 as well, or just whatever your air roll is on, because that just makes drifting way easier and recovery way easier. Now, as far as your video settings go, I personally recommend setting your render quality to really high quality and then everything else on high performance. And so you'll still get a good amount of visuals, but it's not going to be too much where it distracts you, and you're going to get the best FPS possible. And then obviously you want to FPS cap your game to whatever your monitor is refreshed at, maybe even a little bit higher. So I'm 360. Fortunately, the highest option is 360. There's no like 365. But if you have like a 75 hertz monitor, having it on 100 FPS isn't necessarily a bad idea, because you want it a little bit over, but you don't want to be doing unlimited FPS because that could bottleneck your GPU. Whole complicated thing. I don't even know what I'm talking about with bottlenecking, but I heard that if you do that, it could bottleneck your computer. Let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments, but let's move on to the next section. As far as sound goes, sound is actually overlooked. A lot of people think Rocket League, you don't need audio. Audio is actually a huge role in Rocket League for boost pickups, engine sounds, opponent movements. They all provide really valuable information. Just like if you were playing CSGO, hearing someone behind you would be just as valuable. Now, for your master volume, it does depend on what headset you have and, how loud you like your audio, but I keep mine around 50 to 70% to balance my audio clarity with comfort. And I don't have any music on. That's personal dependent. Some pros even play with music. I get a little bit distracted, so I don't listen to any music. And for game sounds, I turn these slightly higher so that I don't miss boost pickups or even demolition warnings. And you do see the demos at the top left of your screen. And then for chat notifications, that's distractive, so I lower them, or I even turn them off. Sometimes I turn off chat completely when I'm solo queuing, just because my teammates are always toxic and I don't really need that. Now we can actually talk about improving, which we're going to do this with mastering core mechanics first. Before diving into all these flashy mechanics like flip resets or air dribbles, you really need to ensure your foundation is solid, and here are the key mechanics you should focus on mastering: ball control, aerial control, recoveries, and boost management. For ball control, spend time in free play practicing dribbling with the ball on your car. Use small joystick movements to keep it centered. Try weaving between the boost pads to simulate game scenarios. And for aerial control, all you have to do for this one is just practice flying to the ball with really precise and small movements with free play. And start by hitting the ball straight into the goal, and then progress at redirecting it at angles. And you can use air roll, or you even should, to adjust your car mid-flight. And for recoveries, this is the easiest one. Quick recoveries are really important, though, to stay in the play. Just practice wave dashing on walls and flipping into position once landed. I have a complete wall dash guide if you guys are interested in that. I do that all the time. But if you make a save or take a shot, always look to get back into rotation as quickly as possible. And for boost management, this is learning to pick up small boost pads while rotating. It's actually really tempting to go for big boosts, even for me, but mastering pad pickups actually changed my gameplay forever. As far as advanced mechanics development, if we're looking at really advanced mechanics like flip resets, ceiling shots and double taps, and fakes and mind games, with flip resets, These are really hard, but they're actually super worth it. Practice hitting the ball with all 4 wheels during an aerial to reset your dodge. Practice first in a custom training pack, and then bring it into casual games, and then bring it into ranked games once you feel pretty comfortable. For stealing shots and double taps, these tools give you a huge edge for scoring opportunities. For the former, practice jumping off the ceiling timing with your dodge perfectly. Regarding the latter, work towards aiming your first touch in a way that the ball falls off the backboard and right into a hittable spot where it makes it a free goal. And for fakes and mind games, this one's completely personal dependent. Some people don't like to fake at all, but I fake a lot, like faking flicks, low 50s, faking shots, faking kickoffs. That's what I do, but many times it's not really about what you can do, but what your opponents think you can do. Because in the higher ranks, everyone can flip reset or whatever, so you don't even have to do it. You're pretty much threatening having those mechanics in your arsenal just by being a higher rank in and of itself. But when you practice delaying shots and baiting opponents into committing earlier, you can just punish their mistakes. Now I'm going to share with you guys my complete training routine that I personally created as a roadmap to get SSL. The first part of my routine is I'll spend at least 15 minutes in free play pretty much daily, or at least on the days that I play ranked, and I would just focus on ball control, aerial adjustments, and recoveries during this time. And let your creativity actually flow, because that's where you actually develop the mechanics in free play. The next thing I'll do is I'll just hop in custom training packs. Use community-made training packs tailored to specific skills. For example, look for aerial or shooting packs designed to challenge your precision and speed. And the next and final thing I'll do is I'll play ones. Ones are excellent for improving decision making and mechanics. Without teammates to rely on, you're forced to address weaknesses in your game, whether it's overcommitting, poor defense, or even really bad positioning. And then all we have to do is just put all that together and we're good to go. Improvement on controller requires a combination of optimized settings, consistent practice, and a resilient mindset. Spend time each day focusing on refining your mechanics, analyzing your gameplay, and stay focused on improvement, be it grinding in ranked, perfecting your skills in free play, or even reviewing replays. The key is to push yourself just outside of your comfort zone. And remember, progress takes time. You're not going to wake up tomorrow in Grand Champ 3 if you're Diamond 1 right now. Celebrate the small wins and enjoy the journey, whether it's landing your first flip reset or climbing into a new rank. If you're interested in personalized one-on-one coaching, DM me the word replay on Discord to get started today. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.